Hi, my name is GEsposito, and I did my project on solar power and economic efficiency. So when choosing a topic over the summer, like obviously all 4 years, you know that this project is coming. I really wanted to do something that appealed to me. So, I mean, all my life I've liked the engineering, math, science topics in general, right? Like, middle school I would do Lego robotics, things like that. I always liked playing with Legos, even like the Thomas the Train engines when I was little, fitting the tracks together just right. So engineering was really a realm that I wanted to go into, but I didn't want to just stop there. I wanted to go something further, something that would make it unique. And I thought, what more than the topic of energy, right? Energy is something that drives everything today, and it's honestly something that a lot of people just take for granted. So I thought this could be a topic that I can go into. My first, if you think energy, the first thing you think of is Dominion Power. That's where the majority of energy in all of Virginia is coming from, right? So this is a picture of my mentor, Mr. Brian Wright. He's actually nearby. He's a neighbor of ours. So I thought, I knew he worked for Dominion Power. I honestly didn't know much about what he did or like how his job was working. So I thought, hey, I'll ask him if I can, contact him. I knew he was a mechanical engineer himself through school, so I contacted him and started my internship here at the Chesterfield Dominion Power Plant. Honestly, this experience was really surreal for me. Not many people get the opportunity to go see where all of their energy is coming from at a constant basis. It was really quite amazing. And one of the things that really struck me was the amount of infrastructure that was at this place. It was really mind-blowing. I got to meet with so many people throughout the plant, including the president of the plant himself. I got to shake his hand, which was just really awesome. I got tours of everywhere around it. And it was really cool to see, actually. This was actually one of the first pictures I took on my way into the plant. Those are some train cars filled entirely with coal. The plant is actually powered about 70% with coal, which was, really mind-blowing. The amount of coal that would be constantly flowing into this plant in order to create the energy that we need. Again, it was really interesting seeing the amount of coal and all the processes that went into this. Honestly, I could probably talk about this for days. I took so many notes while I was there, and I really enjoyed this experience. Actually, this plant was built back in 1950, so along with the infrastructure, it was really interesting seeing how a lot of the processes were still there, but also being updated at the same time. Over here, you have like the picture of the old control panels for the plant. It looks like you're in like a Star Trek movie, honestly. And here are like some of the newer screens and processes that were going into it. And it was really interesting. I got to see all different aspects of it and really get an overall view of how the energy process was working. The project that Mr. Wright was working on was called the CHIA project, right? The CHIA project stood for the Chesterfield Integrated Ash Project. So to understand this project, you kind of have to understand how coal energy is made, right? So you can see that I'm bringing in those tons and tons of coal at a constant basis. Once they're brought in, they're ground up into a fine powder. That powder is, the more surface area you can have on the coal, the more efficiently it's going to burn, right? They want to be as efficient as possible with this process that they're doing. Once this coal is burned, it creates ash, right? So this ash has to be brought somewhere. You can't just, you have to dispose of it somehow. So the way that they're carrying it away from the burners themselves is in this like liquid slurry type of solution so it's all liquefied, it's brought into, the ash drops into this slurry, is brought away from the plant and then eventually disposed of. So this slurry is brought to what are called ash ponds. This actually used to be an ash pond. It was actually covered up The ash ponds are there for the ash that's in the coal to settle down to the bottom so that it's no longer mixing with such a liquefied solution. Once it's settled down to a more solid, cohesive state, they can dump it, pick up with dump trucks and carry away to nearby landfills, and so on and so forth. So you may ask why, what this GEO project is about. This is actually a picture of the Dan River, Duke Energy, located in North Carolina. They had the same process of coal ash and how they would manage it, right? So actually, one of the dams on one of the ash ponds broke through. As you can imagine, it filled the Dan River with so much ash, sludge. It was really disgusting, and it cost upwards of $500 million to, make up for all the damages that they did to nearby farms, to, the environment in general. And that was one of the things about this GEO project. It was to transition away from the ash ponds to a better method of dealing with this ash, right? So there was actually 3 different parts to this project. The first was to create, rather than a liquid way of carrying out the ash, it would be more of a wind powered. So once the ash settled, they would blow it out. So about half of the burners would be doing that method, and then the other half would be to do another. They have like basins basically that are supposed to act in a similar function to the ash ponds themselves. So the ash ponds, they settle the ash. These much smaller basins would allow the ash to settle, and then they would have a conveyor belt that would lead the ash out of it. The second part was actually this. They were going to create a bridge over to a landfill. So one of the parts was the landfill, that to get rid of all this ash, just so they would have a nearby landfill and a bridge here. The thing about this experience was that I got to interact with so many different people, so many different types of engineers. That was the thing that really helped. What I really loved about it, I got to meet with the civil engineers on the bridge, the environmental engineering, mechanical engineering between like the piping and all that went into the plant. And that atmosphere of being able to see all these different types of engineers together was what really appealed to me. So I like the idea of this engineering and energy, and I really wanted to know, how could I narrow this down? This is still such a broad sense. There's so many different types of engineers, and this energy is just such a wide topic. But how can I really narrow it down? So I wanted to, for my research question, I wanted to narrow it down to solar versus this coal plant. What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? Especially from an economic perspective, right? Because you hear about solar, and it seems like this really great thing, but you really wonder, why isn't it moving faster? Like what initiatives should be taken to bring solar into people's everyday life? So I met up with this guy. His name is Bernie Stanley. He worked for Shockwave Solar, and despite his first name and his profession in the environment, he was actually a very conservative guy. He had a very small business oriented, think of it from very economic sense for a small business. He only had 2 other employees, and I really enjoyed my time there. I got to actually build on the solar panels themselves, which was awesome. I really got to do everything and anything that his other employees would do. So it was really an awesome experience being able to work with him in that way. But for me, it wasn't as much the working on the solar panels themselves that appealed to me. It was talking with this guy. This guy, going to lunch with him, being able to talk to him about how solar is affected in the grand scheme of energy in general. And some of my conclusions were pretty fascinating, actually. What I learned from him was that energy on a larger scale is not necessarily the way to go. There's a 125-acre plot of solar panels, and this creates about 20 megawatt hours of energy, right? Now, 20 megawatt hours, what does that mean? just to give you some perspective, the Chesterfield power plant had 1,600 megawatt hours that it was creating on a much less area, right? So much less area per megawatt. So I thought, wow, that's incredible that such a massive expanse of land is needed in order to have solar be such a thing, such a, something that could provide a majority of the energy. So what I learned from Mr. Stanley was a lot about how perhaps smaller solar community, like community-run solar complexes where you could maybe power a small neighborhood or like even 5 or 6 houses, and these 5 or 6 houses pay into the solar, and that would be a more efficient way of bringing money back into the homes of these people. One of the challenges actually was with these smaller solar complexes would be the infrastructure of moving the energy from those smaller solar complexes into the homes. You'd have to be using the power lines of Dominion in order to move the energy back into the households. So I thought all this was very interesting. Lessons I learned both about myself and about energy was that I see solar as more of a supplementative form of energy that could be used on a much smaller scale. About me, working at Dominion for 3 days that experience was amazing. Every morning we would sit at a round table and all the different people would all talk about their perspective, their side of the project, what they needed to accomplish, how it interfered with everyone else, and that collaborative atmosphere is what really appealed to me, and I really like that part of it. For my legacy and the community service, I'm actually going to be, this is a picture of Leaks Mill Park. It's just up the road on Route 6. I'm going to be doing some solar lighting there, putting up some solar lighting in and around the play area, around the parking lot. I think, this is where our middle school soccer teams play, both of them, and I think it's a good way to provide lighting, make the park feel safer, and also a way to have lighting there without having to run power lines underneath the roads and everything too. There would be no way that, to bring energy, it would be much more difficult to bring power underneath. So I think individual solar lights around the parking lot and in around the park would be a great way to give back to the community. This is actually a picture of one of the solar lights that I plan on giving. The posts themselves are being delivered today by the head parks and rec man, Derek Staney. So I'll have those, and I'll just be installing these atop of those. I'll have 12 lights in and around the park. For my future, I will be going to Washington and Lee University, which I am really excited for. I will be going into engineering. I definitely confirmed with in these 2 internships that I did that it was really the workplace for me. I really liked the atmosphere that was here. Going along more with my project, which I thought was really interesting, was every year the new freshmen to Washington League get to participate in a volunteer venture. So this is a student-led organization by some of the older students, and you just get to go around to impoverished communities and really help them out, see how their experiences from a different perspective. So I thought, what better place than to go to West Virginia? West Virginia is the leading place for coal in all of the United States. So I really get to see how this coal energy is affecting these communities and see it from an even more expansive perspective. My advice would be, obviously get ahead, do things like that. Do something that you love, and you're going to be with some experts on their topics when you're doing an internship. Ask questions, seriously. Like, these guys are so knowledgeable, and you really learn so much. And that's, for me, what I really enjoyed about this project more than anything else. Any questions?
You said coal was 70% of How was the other 30?
About 20%. There's actually a picture on over here. This big container here is actually holding oil. So that's mainly as a reserve for emergencies, and about the other 10 or 15% is natural gas, which yeah.
As solar technology improves, either gets cheaper or a little more efficient, will that change your conclusion in these different amount of how it's used?
I think it will become more efficient for sure for the lighting, but I think ultimately it's not going to affect it as so greatly that it will overcome this challenge of the huge expanse of land and the shorter return on investment that it has versus a lot of the other forms of energy.
Did you explore wind tower at all?
No, I really wanted to narrow it down because I mean, energy in general is such a broad topic. There are so many different types of energy, and I really wanted to narrow it down between solar itself and this coal energy itself, just so I could dive deeper into it rather than just feeling like I was getting a less in-depth overlay of it.
Okay. Interesting. Thank you.